Gonna start. Okay, guys, welcome to our first of probably a few more to come 2024 6-week metabolic reset. Lian and I have conducted this program a couple times, very successfully last year. And each time we do it, people would like to do it again. So, and each time we do it, so many clients who start this program and who already tried different types of different diets and approaches pretty quickly within 2-3 weeks of doing this program, telling us how different it feels in a good way. So, by watching client responding to this approach, we kind of realize, and particularly Anne, I'm not a nutritionist, she is, that this program really works in combination with strength training, particularly if you've done that new element training. Gives people amazing results. We probably see an average person from the past losing from conservatively 7 pounds of fat and up to 20 pounds in 6 weeks. And what's more importantly, people don't lose muscle. More or less could be within half a pound here, a pound there. We've seen people gain, 5 pounds or so. So it's really hard to do any nutritional intervention, particularly over age of, mid-30s and above, because we don't have those anabolic hormones that help us to preserve lean tissue. So every time we try to lose weight, what happens is quite a bit of that weight comes from lean tissue, comes from muscle. And we all know, as being clients of element training, muscle is something we can't spare. We can't do anything that would compromise our lean tissue. So, originally when I thought about this kind of program a few years ago, I thought, how can we incorporate, everything we know in terms of maintain muscle, building muscle, losing weight, particularly losing fat, stimulating longevity, health span promoting pathways, and so on. And this is kind of the best program we came up so far. And Lian approved it. We ran it together, as I mentioned, super successfully. So I would kind of, I can maybe just enough. Lian, you want to say a few things about yourself, and then we'll take it from there.
Welcome, everyone. Happy New Year. I'm Leanne Nollet. I'm a certified coach with a background in competitive athletics and coaching overseas. I'm also a holistic nutritionist and a member of the International Organization of Nutritional Consultants. I've been practicing since about 2008. And what I love about this program is that essentially, anytime you're losing weight, you're typically losing about 20% lean tissue as well. So this is a program that we put together. Andre, had a brilliant idea to integrate intermittent fasting with some longer fasting. And he ensured that you have enough protein per meal so that you're not losing lean tissue. So when I came into the picture, I wanted to sort of ensure that, we've got enough protein. So protein's absolute, but we're not counting calories. But what I liked is we take the good fats and we ensure that we're getting the best fats possible. So you can do a keto diet where you can sort of have any sort of fat that you like, but we want to have the essential fats, the anti-inflammatory fats, and integrate sort of that into the picture. So if you're someone who's a vegan or vegetarian or pescatarian or whatever diet you enjoy, you can do a combination of those as well. So it doesn't just have to be animal protein. We like animal protein, but for those who have different lifestyles and have different, or for people who sort of want to have a combination, this program allows you to do that with the good fats. So basically, I've taken all of the fats available and I've chosen the healthiest ones for you. So the program is also anti-inflammatory in that sense. And then when we look at the low carbs, we've incorporated, the lowest starchy carbs available, but also, the healthiest. So you're really not depriving yourself of anything. We're not having, a lot of starchy carbs. We're not having starchy carbs and we're not having high sugar fruit, but we are having some low carb, high fiber fruit. So you're still getting the same benefits. And we've also added some fermented foods for those of you who like fermented foods. They're not mandatory, but they're highly recommended for, I'm not sure how many of you are familiar with the microbiome and how important your gut health is to your overall health. So we have the gut-brain axis. So essentially your gut and your brain communicate together. And we're more bacteria than we are cells in the body. So it's very, very important. So yeah, we worked together and we sort of combined what I felt was the healthiest and the most anti-inflammatory, and I think we have a very balanced program.
Well, balance is a good word, right? Because this program essentially is all about balance, right?
Yeah.
Our health could be defined in from the point of view of maintaining good balance between being in catabolic state, a state of breaking down tissue, but also in anabolic state, or states of building new tissue. You can't stay in one of the states all the time because you're gonna die. So it's all about the balance. And this program, essentially, it's all about that balance because we're gonna do a little bit of well, first of all, we'll make you fat adapted. Make sure that when we do the intermittent fasting, more prolonged fasting days, your body will be able to access, you store thousands, hundreds of thousands of calories stored in your body as fat. So we're gonna do that first. Because then when you fast, intermittent fast, it doesn't actually feel as hard as you think it would. Most of the participants said actually were surprised how easy that was once you fat adapted. So there is that component of fasting, intermittent fasting, which you need to be in that catabolic state in terms of stimulating health span longevity promote pathways, autophagy, cells repair, DNA repair, recycling of all broken proteins. And when you're gonna eat, you're gonna rebuild tissue with the new proteins, new components. So you need that, the both breaking down the catabolic state to stimulate those longevity promoting pathways and health promoting pathways, but at the same time, you need to be in anabolic state as well. So as Jan, she been calling homeostasis, it's all about maintain that balance.
Yeah. So your body's it's not static, it's fluid. So you're constantly cycling. And the body, a healthy homeostasis simply means balance. So when you're in a balanced state, your body's able to break down and also rebuild, and it's that interchange. So a healthy metabolism is a flexible metabolism. So 12,000 years ago, hunter-gatherers, they were able to use sugar for fuel, and they were also able to use fat for fuel. And that's a healthy metabolism, to be able to interchange between the two. So essentially, becoming metabolically flexible again and resetting is sort of teaching your body how to use fat for fuel when you have the fat for fuel, so that you have that flexibility. And your metabolism will become much more efficient as you go through the process. So the goal is not to never have any carbs or starchy carbs again, it's to be able to utilize things properly. So as you go through the program, you'll see your blood markers start to improve and everything becomes more efficient. So you'll see cholesterol, triglycerides, your blood sugar, your blood pressure, everything sort of restabilize. And that's that balance that we're talking about, that homeostasis.
Inflammation and so.
Yeah.
Yeah. So one of the issues with accessing fat for energy is that our diets are generally, unless you've already been doing some form of ketogenic diet, but otherwise are fairly rich in carbs and starches, right? It just everything we eat pretty much has some form of carbs, and that prevents us from accessing stored body fat for energy, because we have so much, any form of carbs we consume is going to end up as a glucose in the blood, and that's what your body is going to use for energy. There is excess of that glucose, so the body has to use it, right? And that's why it's really hard to lose fat, give your body access to stored body fat, because your insulin is high, and in that way the body can really metabolize and oxidize fat. So what we're going to do first on this program, essentially, it's composed of 3 main phases. So phase 1, that's the emphasis of week 1, is to make you fat adapted as fast as possible, right? So it's not the week 1, it's really not about losing weight, it's about making you fat adapted. Then we're moving into phase 2, which has kind of 2 sub-phases. And those are where you actually start burning fat. And then the longer you go between week 2 and 5, the more advanced you're getting week 3, 4, 5, more and more and more. So you're going to be, basically you're going to become like a fat burning furnace. You're really going to have, your body is really going to have access to all those stored energy in the form of your body fat. And so that's phase 2. And phase 3 last week is more about discussing moving forward, like the maintenance, how we can responsibly introduce some, healthy carbs in your diet, because we all have to live life, right? It's not about going in 100% of the time. It's very important for your body, as Leon mentioned, back in hunter-gatherers days, our metabolism was most likely very flexible, moving from fat burning metabolism to sugar burning, very, very efficiently. Now we lost that efficiency, right? So being metabolically flexible, you need to stimulate both. So then it's not such a bad idea once in a while, as we're gonna discuss later in the program, to introduce some carbs, make sure that metabolism is still working and it doesn't get too idle and then kind of dormant, and you lose the ability for your body to process carbs and sugars when you eat it later.
Yeah. And fat adapting will allow your insulin to come down. So just so everyone understands, if your insulin remains high, you can't access the fat in your cells. So if your insulin remains high, let's say, for example, you're calorie restricting, you're trying to lose weight. So you're restricting your calories, but the foods that you're eating are not high enough in the healthy fats or protein, and your insulin stays high because you're having too many starchy carbs, you won't be able to access the fat in your cells, even if you've calorie restricted. So it's very important to bring that insulin down. And one of the other nice things about the program is intermittent fasting allows your organs and gives your body a rest. But the other thing that it's going to do for you, it's going to allow you to mimic calorie restriction. So what do I mean by that? So rather than having a very, very low calorie diet where it's too restrictive, what happens when we do that? Then our metabolism slows down, right? Why does our metabolism slow down? Because our metabolism is trying to compensate, because its number one goal is to keep us alive. So if we calorie restrict too much, then we slow our metabolism down. So intermittent fasting sort of allows us to mimic that without restricting our calories so much that it causes a shift and slows down our metabolism, right? But it also allows us to give our body a break, our organs a rest. Okay. Does anyone know anything about autophagy or activating autophagy and the cleaning of your? So when you're, the program allows you to activate autophagy and your longevity genes, which allows you to, reuse, repurpose, and remove. It's like a spring cleaning for your body, for your cells. It allows you to clean out and allows your body to do the things that it normally doesn't have time to do because it's too busy trying to keep up and do the other things that it normally does. So this is, the loss of autophagy is one of the hallmarks of aging. So it's very important for all the other hallmarks of aging for us to have a healthy ability to activate autophagy. And so this is one of the other things I like about the program.
And one of the differences here is that it's not a starvation program. You actually be shocked how full you're going to be. And yet you're going to lose fat, right? So when you will eat, that's where the magic of Leanne comes in. She's an expert she has in our guide booklet that we will share with you. There is, I don't know how many hundreds, like different recipes, right?
There's 120
Yeah.
120 different recipes. And what I've done, guys, is if you look at the top of each recipe, I've sort of given you an idea as to how many grams of protein per serving or per recipe. And you can play with it a little bit, meaning I might tell you that 6 ounces equals this. And if you wanted to have 4 ounces, for example, instead, you can quite easily calculate that. So I'm not sure how many people, Andre, do they have the guide yet or no?
Only those ones that confirm, that send them. Otherwise, I'm still waiting for the confirmation.
Right.
Yeah, so I just want to say maybe a couple more words about this approach is that, when you fast, once you fat adapt, we'll make sure that you fat adapted. Why? Because we want to channel for your body to draw the energy from fat, not from the muscle, right? So that's the week one, the goal. After you kind of starting to feel, like you're gonna feel a little bit sluggish, might be a little bit symptoms of fat adaptation. It's very normal. We're gonna guide you through that week, day by day, through that process, what to do, what not to do, what to avoid, and to watch for. And then once you kind of feel normalish again, meaning this is the science of getting fat adapted, your energy is back, you're getting that mental clarity, and so on and so forth. So now we're gonna do those, intermittent fasting and prolonged fasting times. So that's where I stimulated autophagy. We're breaking down tissue, including the muscle. Yes, you're gonna be breaking down more muscle tissue during that time than you're gonna build up because you're not eating anything. So if you look at this, so you're breaking down, so we can break down the muscle, we can build up the muscle, right? So the breaking down will exceed the build up. So we're gonna be in so-called negative muscle balance, right? Which is a bad thing because you're gonna lose muscle. That's why when you do eat those two meals, we're emphasizing proteins at the higher end of what our muscles can absorb. And if anything, when they do, majority of the studies are done on 25-year-old college students, but there is this phenomenon is called anabolic resistance. So meaning if I give 25-year-old 30 grams of protein, they're going to have nice, healthy muscle protein spike, so building new muscle. I give same amount of protein, same type to 75-year-old, they have little blip, maybe nothing. So as we get older, because of this effect of anabolic resistance, we need to eat more protein because body loses its sensitivity ability to use that protein the same way a younger person would. Again, that's another reason why we're eating more protein is to err on the higher end, make sure that, when we have that breaking down, building up, because during the fast, you're going to be, breaking down more than building up. There is nothing to build up with, only breaking down. But when you're going to eat, we're going to replenish, we're going to build new proteins with that protein meal that you're going to consume on top of your strength training session. So now you gradually, basically improving your muscle quality, right? So it's called muscle protein turnover. For example, when we work out, we're breaking down muscle protein cells, the old ones, the ones that don't work very well, the process of autophagy. It also could be stimulated by working out. And then you're gonna fast, breaking down more. And then when you're gonna eat your high protein on top of the workout, you're gonna replenish and put new muscle protein in the same place. And the new ones now function better, they recruit more muscle fibers more efficiently, and so on and so forth. So now, gradually, day by day, week by week, you kind of replacing some old muscle protein with the new ones that work very well, much, much, much better. And this is just one of the effects of this program that we took into consideration when we designed, this kind of structure.
Yeah, and all of those things, all of those chemical processes that happen, that your metabolism is constantly efficiently doing, that all requires amino acids, right? So all the enzymes, they're all made of proteins. So we need amino acids. Your body takes in food, the protein breaks it down into amino acids. Why does it do that? Well, it does that because those are building blocks, so it can take it and use it exactly where it's required in your body. And that's the beauty of it. So we want to make sure that we're giving it enough, because if we don't, when we think of amino acids or protein, we tend to just think about muscle. But really, it's for most of the processes that are taking place in your body, including your digestive enzymes, right? So your body will break down the food into basically the essential building blocks so that it can take those little building blocks and send it around the body to the places that it needs it. And if we're in the process of autophagy and we're breaking down, reusing, removing, repurposing our cells, well, we need to create new ones. So there's constantly, that's what Andre was saying, anabolism and catabolism is essentially just means we're breaking down old things. It's like, think about your home where you're getting rid of garbage, you're packaging things up, you're putting them in the garbage, you're putting them out in the recycling every week. And then you're grocery shopping and you're bringing things back in new. And it's this cycle, right? It's constant. And our body has to do the exact same things. And so protein is the number one requirement that we need to do that. And if we don't have enough, we will lose lean muscle tissue, because your body has the ability to take that lean muscle and shave it down and use it for fuel if it needs it, right? And we don't want that. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. And yeah, so on top of the proteins, and the proteins are out of the 3 macronutrients are the most saturated macronutrients. So when you eat that much protein, you will see you just won't be hungry for many, many hours. On top of that, we will be emphasizing, Leanne will be emphasizing healthy fats like olive oil, avocados, walnuts, fiber-rich, low-starch vegetables. Like it's not, and you don't have to count calories. So what, when it's all in the document and the guide and will be guided to it. So when you eat to the point where you are, Leanne, what's the word?
Satiated.
Yes, satiated.
Yeah.
I have a little moment. And but if you don't overeat, just eat enough, and then once you're full, you walk away. Just make sure you get you all the proteins, and that will give you energy for hours and hours and hours and hours, right? So 2 meals a day, believe me, you won't be walking around hungry. And yet, somehow by the end of the program, you will be, when we look at the data from people who completed it, somewhere between 7 to 20 pounds less body magically.
Yeah. So protein will send the message to your brain to tell you that once you've had enough, you will be satiated. It will let you know. So the good fats and the protein, when you've had enough, your body, literally your brain will get the signal that you've had enough. And essentially what it's saying is that you've met all the requirements. You've got the nutrients that you need. So we like to sort of, if I can summarize it, I would say it's sort of a NAG diet, which means natural, alive, and good quality. Okay. So natural, what do I mean by natural? Well, I mean, we don't want everything processed and refined. So if we're buying mostly things packaged, or we're eating out most of the time, or we're buying, refined, high heat chemical laden oils and fat, those are inflammatory, right? So we want to include things like olive oil, avocado oil, maybe some organic butter, or ghee. Does everyone know what ghee or clarified butter is? So we removed the dairy out of it so it can be cooked at a higher heat without creating, right. It has a burning point, and beyond that, you start to have a negative impact on your body, right? So when we look at the healthy fats, whether you're eating, animal products or not, the healthy fats include lots of healthy monounsaturated with oleic acid. And then you have some healthy nuts or seeds are included. We recommend use of avocados. You're allowed to have, good quality dairy or some nice cheese or cottage cheese. None of these things are off limits. The program just sort of explains to you like the right portions of good fats per day with each of your meals. And we recommend that you're going to have some of the healthier fats, right? So you're going to have olive oil every day with your meal. And then we recommend either some, nuts or seeds or some avocado, things like that. But if you wanted to have a little bit of cheese, you can have that as well as your healthy fat. And then so the A in NAG would be alive, right? So that means you've got lots of enzymes, digestive enzymes, good bacteria, good flora. So that's where you're going to have the low carb vegetables. You can have 2 to 3 servings per meal. So most people tell me, Leanne, I can't eat anymore. Like I can't believe I'm eating this much food and I'm actually losing fat. So you're going to have your low starch carbs. And then after the first week, once you're fat adapted, you can also have 1 serving of fruit per day. And these are the lower carb fruits, like starfish or little kiwi, all the berries. So you'll have that as well. And then we highly recommend the fermented foods. And those are alive as well, right? And then the G in NAG is good quality. So we're recommending that the protein sources that you choose are good quality. So if they're pasture raised, if it happens to be, animal-based products or eggs, things like that. And so we want you to take into account where your protein is coming from. So aside from the phases of the program, the actual quality of your macronutrients that I've put together, they're all high quality anti-inflammatory. But the beauty is that you have this variety. So regardless of the diet that you enjoy, there's options for everybody. And you can also sort of combine the two. In other words, you can get a portion of your protein per meal from, say, chicken or meat or poultry or seafood or fish. And then you can also incorporate some of the protein from, nuts and seeds, or for those who are vegan, you can have, some tofu or tempeh, things like that. It's a edamame. So there's lots of different ways. So it's very inclusive as well.
So maybe we'll just quickly review how the program more or less gonna look like, and then let people, ask any questions that anybody want to ask us. So typically the way it works is we're gonna create a Slack account, and we'll have our own group, and that will be our main means of communicating with each other. Like daily, you guys are gonna have questions, you're gonna post. Anybody welcome to comment, ask any questions. Leanne and I will be keeping an eye on it, mostly more Leanne than me, but if I see something I want to say, I will add. So that's kind of the main form of communication during the program, is that daily Slack chat, ongoing Slack chat account. We'll be doing weekly Zoom calls. So we thought to do the Zoom calls earlier in the week, like Monday night. So kind of to highlight what next week is going to look like, what to do, what not to do. We will walk you through, so ask you to ask some questions ahead of time, because in the past, when you do those Zoom questions calls, they could last for like a couple hours. So we want to keep it nice and short, like definitely less than an hour, even shorter if it's possible. So if you can, once we start the program, we'll ask you to submit the questions prior, so we can, just focus on those questions and be efficient. And that's how we go week at a time, right? And then the next thing you know, you're done.
So you can send me a private DM on the Slack. So we have the group where everyone can share. Sometimes people like to share recipes or something that they're experiencing, or just in general. And people enjoy that. And then you can also send me a message privately. So if you have a question or two that you would like me to cover in the following Zoom meeting, that's the best way to do it. You send me a DM, and then as long as I get it a couple of days before, then the following Monday, we will cover it in the class. So it's a nice way for people to learn as well.
We will ask those who decide to participate to pre-fill Leanne's nutritional and lifestyle form and the client in consent form ahead of time, because if 30 people doing it and all 30 people send through those forms, on Saturday, she's gonna have a long weekend to catch up on pre-filling and reviewing all you guys' information. And she also has to come back to you with every one of you. She'll come back to you personally with personal recommendations specific for you. So if you decide you're gonna do it, unless I already send you those forms, please pre-fill and send it to her as soon as possible. If not, Leanne would highly appreciate if she gets those forms sooner than later.
Yeah, so what I'll do, guys, is I review your individual forms, and there's charts, and they sort of cover every organ system in your body, and then they go over, your micro and macronutrients. And then I will send you a private DM, and I'll sort of give you feedback based on what I'm seeing. And then as we go along each week, if you have a symptom or you have a question, you don't have to feel that you have to put it in the group chat. You can send me a private message as well. So you can, I respect your privacy. If it's something you want to share, you can share. And then this is how I help you, through each stage. And of course, we have the Zoom meetings. So traditionally, the Zoom meetings are a great way for us to get together and review. I think what Andre was saying is just that if I have questions prior, because what happens is people who can't make the Zoom meeting may want to watch it afterwards. But if it's an hour and 20 minutes and some of it's just us sort of chit-chatting and not a lot of content, it becomes really hard for people week after week. But if we have a more structured sense where we have questions that we're actually going over specific things, or I know in advance concerns or questions that you have, then it's much more efficient for people to review after as well.
Okay. All right, so if you guys wanna unmute yourself, anybody who wants to ask us a question, feel free to do so.
Eileen? Yeah. Oh, I think you're muted.
Allison or somebody else?
Eileen, can you hear me?
Okay. Okay, sorry. Yes, Andre, you had mentioned, I think, was it in week 1 that you start to tear down muscle? Is that correct?
Did I
Hello?
say?
Oh,
Can you tell? I'm just not sure what you mean. What did I say? Did I say?
I thought you
more than
said
that?
something about muscle, you're going to be impacting your muscle negatively for a little period of time. Is that what I understood
I
you
guess
said?
what I was saying is when we fast, like first
Right.
of all, the week one is about fat adaptation. It's about turning on your fat metabolism. And when you do that, you will be, when you fast, you're more likely to use more fat from stored from your body or the one that you get from food than using your muscle, right? So that's why we want to make sure you fat adapted first. But regardless, even you fat adapted, the muscle right now, even when we fat, always in the two stages, it's a breaking down stage or building up stage. So
Okay.
when we fast, the breaking down takes over, right? So it exceeds the building up. So we will be, it's normal. It's not just the muscle, it's the process of autophagy. All the organs, right? You're going to be losing your parts of the brain, parts of the liver, parts of the kidney, skin, and so on. You're going to be losing all those old proteins. But when you do it again, you're going to replenish them with new ones. So if you finish the program and you have same amount of lean tissue, but I can guarantee you if you do strength training with this, it's going to be much higher quality lean tissue. Not only didn't lose your muscle, you also improve the quality of the, not just the muscle, all the lean tissue in the body, anything but fat. So I guess maybe that's what I was trying to do.
My question was going to be though, do we still keep doing our workouts while we're doing this in that state? Okay.
Yeah, so definitely strength training is a big part of the program because you can't just, just do that. You have to do both, right? You have to burn the candle from both ends. We give you recommendations. So for instance, if you're doing 2 meals, right, in your workout, and we'll discuss it later, say, and if your meal is going to be later than, hour or two after the workout, then we will tell you perhaps you should get like a whey protein shake or something like that, because if you're already fasting in your workout, you're really breaking down the muscle tissue. So if you're going to eat within an hour or two, a reasonable amount of time, within an hour or so, then don't worry about it. Just wait until you meal and then eat your normal high protein meal and move on. But if the break is going to be longer, several hours, then we will suggest, include like a protein shake immediately after the workout, just to make sure you don't lose too much muscle.
Okay. Well, in terms of losing, I was kind of concerned when you talked about losing weight. I mean, I don't really need to or want to lose weight. So am I going to be dropping weight that I don't want?
We don't know. Everybody will respond differently. So there is what we do on this program, we use fat intake as sort of like a measuring stick, right? So where you should be losing, week one, we don't care. Some people lose up to 10 pounds of weight in week one, but frankly, most of the weight is water. So we don't care about week one. Week 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, we should be losing, and it's also in the program guide, and we will talk about more about this. We should be losing somewhere between 1 to 3 pounds of weight a week. If you lose more than 3 pounds, more likely than not, you start losing muscle, because a pound of fat is 3,500 calories. If you do the math, that's about 10,000 calories. That's a lot of calories to lose if you're losing 3 pounds, right? Just coming from fat. So what you do, you use your fat intake to calibrate. So if you don't want to lose any fat, any weight, just keep your healthy fat intake high enough so you're actually going to maintain your weight. So you we teach you as you get fat adapted, we teach you, these little tricks, how you can use your dietary fat to sort of make sure that week by week your weight, if you want to lose weight, goes down between 1 to 3 pounds. But yeah, just keep your fat intake high, and you're more likely to more or less maintain most of the weight.
So Eileen, I would just add that so the first week is the fat adaptation stage. So we're having a certain level of good healthy fats with each of our meals. And for most people, they want to lose a little bit of fat. So weeks 2 to 6, we reduce that amount of fat a little bit in each meal. And the reason we do that is now your insulin has dropped. Now you're able to use fat as fuel. So if we lower some of the fat intake, then you'll access the fat in your cells and you'll lose that fat from your cells that you want. If you don't want to lose any fat, or you don't have any fat that you would like to lose, then you simply just don't reduce the healthy fats that you're having the first week. So for example, not very often, but once in a while. So the goal is for people who want to lose fat is 1 to 3 pounds a week, like Andre was saying. And he was saying if you lose more than 3 pounds a week, then you're at risk of losing a little bit of muscle. So when after week 1, if we see someone losing more than 3 pounds, then we just increase a little bit of that fat intake, the healthy fat. If we find someone who's a little bit, their body's a little stubborn, their metabolism is a little stubborn, and they're not losing any weight, and they're not losing any fat, and they'd like to, then we just reduce it a little bit. So it's just a little bit of a weight, and it's not complicated. It's literally 1 serving. So in your situation, you would just not reduce it.
Okay.
And you would focus on the healthy fats.
Okay.
Because once you're fat adapted, it's not copious amounts of fat. It's not a keto diet, right? So a keto diet is very high fat, and they're not really selective as to the fats. I'm very selective about using healthy fats. And they also have, in my opinion, too little protein, right? They're, really big on the fats and not so big on the protein. And then, so people are losing lots of weight on keto, but they're also losing lots of lean muscle tissue, which I don't want you to do.
Yeah. But I also seen people on keto, sorry, Lian, like after a month or 2, they lose the initial weight and then they plateau, they don't lose anymore, right? Just because they eat too much fat. Keto is all about fat. They don't realize that fat is calories, and they just eat, don't eat, the total calorie intake is still too high for them to keep losing fat, and then, I plateau, I don't lose any more weight. Well, you're eating too much fat.
Yeah. And that's why you have me on the app as well. So you and I would communicate, and that's why we're meeting once a week. And then we sort of tweak as we need to there. But that gives you an opportunity to gain some muscle as well, right?
Yes.
On that. As obviously, as well as, all the other benefits of the autophagy and the detoxing and giving your organs a break and things like that. Does anyone understand anything about circadian rhythms? Just the internal clock that we all have, right? So our sleep-wake cycle, our organs like to do certain things the same time every day. So this also sets us properly in that cycle. And that's when I'm, talking about the efficiency of your metabolism, right? Your metabolism is controlling all of these things, right? It's what keeps you alive. So it's controlling whether or not, certain genes are activated, whether inflammation is turned on or off. And this is all part of finding that, because when your metabolism is efficient, it's flexible. And when it's efficient and flexible, your energy is very leveled. It's not up and down. So, and these are the sort of benefits that we list in the program, right? Seeing the rebalancing, the inflammation coming down, your blood markers, finding, the right balance. And why can that happen? Well, it happens because we're doing that we're doing the housekeeping, right? The spring cleaning. We're allowing your body to reuse, repurpose, remove, get rid of senescent cells, sort of zombie cells, they're called. So those are cells that are no longer serving you, but they're still in your body. And if they're not removed, they turn into, they create more inflammation. They can turn into cancer, all of those sorts of things. So when Andre talks about protein turnover and that sort of cycle of cannibalism and anabolism, it's that cycle of breaking down, rebuilding fresh, new, and so on and so forth. And it's a continual cycle. It's not static. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Did you have a question, Allison?
I do. I was reading the first 12 pages or whatever Andre sent. And the one thing that jumped out at me that I know you'll address in the rest of the package that I don't yet have, but the 60 grams of protein per meal had me gasp with more a sense of how am I going to do that? So I'm just wondering, I'm sure you address it, but I'm curious if you have any sort of top tips of how to get that in.
So, it depends on the type of diet that you enjoy. In other words, do you enjoy a mix of, animal products, or do you enjoy, some vegan foods as well, fish or seafood? But even if we took all of that aside, you're going to get between 4 and 12 grams of protein for your 2 to 3 servings of vegetables every day. You're going to get some protein from your good healthy fats if you're choosing nuts and seeds. So when you get the welcome package, I've sort of laid out how to calculate 30 grams, giving you ideas of all the different vegetables, the fruit, the healthy fats as well. And then you can do a combination. You could do a combination of meat or poultry and a little bit of, edamame and things like that. So everybody has a different way of blending it together. And it sounds like, and you could also do, some people like to have a protein shake or a whey isolate shake as well. So 1 scoop's going to give you 20 to 21 grams of protein. And if you put in, a cup of milk in there, it might be anywhere from 6 to 8 grams of protein. So it's just getting your head around sort of that it's not just, when you think protein, just that one thing that you're thinking about.
Half a cow.
Exactly. Does that make sense?
Can't do it. Yeah, no, that's really helpful and encouraging. Thank
Or
you.
a little bit of cheese, like depending on, again, and then this is what I mean about inclusive, right? It allows everyone, depending on how you like to eat, to combine different, food categories and macros. So that works really well for people.
Thank
And
you.
we're here to guide you as well. So the first couple of days, you're just sort of figuring out how to calculate, looking at going back and referencing what we've given you. And then after about a week, Andre, people sort of, it gets a lot smoother.
Yeah, maybe
Yeah.
close to a couple weeks, maybe, but longer.
You're having the 60 grams per meal because you're only having the 2 meals, right? So you're not spreading it out over 3 meals or 3 meals and a snack kind of thing. And you're not counting calories, right? So you're only counting. So the protein is absolute for the reasons that we've explained about maintaining your lean muscle. But the other beauty of the program is you're not counting calories. Sorry, Eileen, did you have a question?
Just a follow-up about the protein powder. In terms of ingredients on the, sometimes there's some kind of sugar or something like that added to it. I was wondering what you recommend in terms of protein powder.
Yeah, so the welcome package, Andre has a wonderful whey one, but for those who are looking to either combine or have something without animal protein in it, I recommend 2 organic ones as well that are really good. And there's no sugar in these. These are sweetened with stevia, and there's no erythritol in any of the things that I recommend.
And if you go with one of the best protein sources is whey isolate from grass-fed cows. New Zealand brand is great because in New Zealand they have fairly strict rules. So those cows never been fed any hormones or antibiotics. The way they process, extract the whey from the milk is they use microfiltration, so they don't kill all the active bioculture. It's really one of the purest protein on the planet Earth. And if you don't want to have stevia, just get unflavored one, and just it's as pure as it gets. No typically effects on your stomach and so on. So it's very clean, and we can give you some recommendations.
Yeah. So it's quite common for people, sometimes to do a combination of the 2, or some people prefer to, for one of their meals a day, have a shake or have, 1 scoop. And then I would recommend that you maybe wait 10 minutes and then have, the meal. So there are different ways to combine the protein.
It's such a process of discovery because I've learned I can't have a protein drink right after eating. My system doesn't.
That's the thing to bring up, guys. So you want to drink liberally between your meals, but you don't want to drink with your meals. So a protein shake would fall into that category because of the liquid, because what it does is it dilutes your digestive enzymes. And so it creates issues for you and slows down your digestion. So that's why if you were to have sort of a shake, then you would want to have it first, maybe wait about 10 minutes, and then you would proceed with the rest of your meal. Yeah. So that now you know why. Yeah.
That makes sense. Thank you for explaining it. It's great.
Yeah. And of course, we don't want you to choke, so you can take small sips while you're eating. But the idea is to drink liberally in between your meals throughout the day. But then when you're eating, focus, more on eating your meal. Yeah. Does anyone else
start this week?
Start Monday. Yes. Yeah. So we would send you the guide, and I've also have a pantry guide shopping selection as well, just to give you some ideas about what to buy. look through the different recipes. You're not obliged to use any of the recipes, but there are a few, for example, that come in handy. For example, I have a pumpkin protein bread that has lots of different seeds in it, so it doesn't have the flours, and it's quite simple to make, and that can count for one of your, healthy fat servings. So a lot of times people like to make that because you can slice it thin enough to toast it, and then it's sort of like a piece of bread. Or I also have chocolate chip almond flour cookies that can count for a serving of healthy fat, or an avocado chocolate pudding. So there's different recipes that people really gravitated towards, but there's no obligation to actually use them.
One of the feedbacks people were telling us, particularly those who already kind of enter in this program, thought they pretty much know everything there is to know about nutrition. They told us how much they learned, mostly from Leanne. She's such an expert on nutrition, and it's a quite educational program as well. You'll see.
So if you have questions, guys, throughout the program about any of the macro groups or any, the food or any of the combinations, or just in general about nutrition, you can send me a message. I'm happy to help. So the goal is, once you're done the 6 weeks, you've given your body this gift, but then after, really when you're looking at putting a meal together, when you want to keep, even when you reintroduce starchy carbs back into your diet, you're able to say, well, how do I put a meal together that's healthy, that keeps my blood sugar stable, but still allows me to have the starchy carbs? And that answer is, you want to have, where's my protein, where's my good fat, and where's my fiber? Because all three of those things help you regulate your blood sugar, right? They help keep it balanced and stable. And, balanced and stable is a word you're going to hear a lot from us over the next 6 weeks, because that's what your health is all about, right? Those spikes and crashes are what we end up with brain fog, or we end up tired midday or in the afternoon. But you'll find that once you start using fat for fuel, your energy becomes much more sort of very balanced. And it's a different feeling. Yeah.
Yeah, it is a different feeling. You will feel like honestly, if you within 2 weeks, if you do it right, you're gonna feel like a different person. Like you won't feel like you will be a different person. Sorry, Len, I interrupted.
No, not at all. Because your body will be able to, your body is smart, it knows what to do. So if it has that, if it's using fat and it's accessing the fat in your fat cells, it's just a beautiful streamlined energy, versus being dependent on the sugar. And then, am I taking the right amount and in the right balanced fashion? You get that sort of jerky, sort of up and down. And that's what causes, creates havoc on our energy levels, right? So that's a difference that you'll notice for sure. Maybe we should talk a little bit just, about the fasts themselves. I don't know if anyone is worried about the fasting, the actual fast, but just to clarify, essentially you're just skipping one meal. So, for example, if you had dinner, then you would just skip the first meal the next day, and you would have your dinner the following day, right? Or vice versa, you would pick the other meal.
Will there be just one fast per week?
So we have, do you want to go over the fasting?
No, it's okay. So you can clarify.
So the first week you're adapting, and then weeks 2 and 3, both of those weeks, you'll have one day where you pick a day where you would fast, where you would just skip one meal, right? And then weeks 4 and 5, you would have 2 fast days, which sounds extreme, but by that point, everyone is fat adapted. They're actually asking me if they can do them consecutively. Some people even want to do more, because what happens is your body gets into a rhythm, and it's like we were saying, it's very streamlined, and you lose that urge to that hunger urge, and it becomes, sort of like second nature, because your body knows how to do it. I mean, it's there it was there 10,000-12,000 years ago to save our lives, and it's there today for us. In other words, if you had a meal 10,000 years ago, you used that energy, whether it was from berries and it was sugar, or whether it was from an animal and it was fat, you used it. And then maybe you didn't find another meal for 2 more days, right? And then your body would know to tap into the fat that you have in your stores, and it would use that. And it can still do that today very effectively. So, and then the final week 6, we go back to just having one fast day for that week. Has anyone ever done a fast? Couple of nods. Yeah. Mariela, you've done a fast? How long was your fast? Sorry, you're muted.
It was the same. It was the same. So it was 24 hours, like the
Okay.
same concept. Yeah, it was just a different eating plan. There was more like starchy carbs incorporated, but it was the same idea. It was actually quite simple. Like it was very doable.
Yeah. So you just missed the one meal. And
Yeah.
then, okay. Was the program you did 2 meals a day?
No, it was 2 meals and snacks, but it was also very focused on proteins. It was just it did allow for more carbs. So I like the idea of this being a little more challenging for me because I do like my starches. So this is why, like, I totally think I could do it. I just have to.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Excellent. Well, there are lots of there. I mean, there are 120 recipes there, and they're not high starch, but it teaches you a new way to put meals together in new recipes where you're getting the same effect, but you're not having that high starch. It also, when you have a little bit, when we're having the low carbs, it actually allows you to tap into your fat cells better, right? Because remember, bringing down your insulin is what allows you to tap into your fat cells. Because high insulin will stop the fat oxidation. So
large majority of nutritional interventions, like the more common ones, I don't know if even one that actually they talk about separating fat loss from weight loss. They'll talk about weight loss. They don't respect muscle, lean tissue, right? So they're never gonna put you on the machine that looks at your body composition, how much muscles, how much fat you have, and then they put you to the program and see what happened. They just look at the total weight. But as Leanne mentioned, when you look at the research, 20-25% of most diets lead to muscle loss. There was recently a publication just a month or 2 ago came across. They did intermittent fasting, and people lost 60% of the weight from lean tissue. So like if you have to respect the muscle. That's why we're strength training, high protein. If not, it's very easy to lose muscle.
well, worse than that, guys, is that so typically when you lose weight, you're going to lose that percentage of muscle. But when you gain weight back, which most people at some point they'll fluctuate a little bit, they gain the weight back. It's almost always just fat. It's not muscle you're gaining back, right? So if you do that every every decade a little bit, you're losing pounds of muscle as you go. So this is one of the things that I really love about this program is that the way we've structured it is you're having the anti-inflammatory, you're having the best macronutrients, but you're getting the autophagy, but you're also preserving your lean muscle mass, right? Which is very, very important.
I do have a question.
Martin?
Yes. I'm quite interested in the program. It starts this coming Monday, right?
Yes.
I'm probably going to be away towards the end of the program, meaning I won't be at home. I'll be in an environment where I'll have to find my food in restaurants. Will I be able to do it?
Absolutely. You'll have me on Slack. Are you going to be overseas or?
Overseas, yes.
Yeah. As long as you can access Slack, you'll be able to do. Is this the last?
I'm thinking more for that totally for sure. I'm thinking more for meals. Yeah, okay. Because I haven't seen the package, of course, so I'm more curious if that's something that I'll be able to find if I eat in restaurants,
Do you eat animal protein?
I do, yes.
Yeah, so you'll be able to go to a restaurant and select your animal protein and ask them for certain vegetables and some olive oil or whatever,
Great.
Travel with some seeds and yeah, I'll help you out. You'll be set. There's been a few people who've done it while they've traveled.
Okay, perfect.
I have a sort of similar question to Martin. Sorry, that I'm going to be away for a small part of the trip, kind of in the middle of it, around like February 18th to 22nd, in which where I'm going to be eating, enjoying the food is going to be like part of it. And I would really like to do the program, but I would imagine that like taking a 5-day chunk out of the middle of it where I'm not necessarily, where I'm maybe only loosely following the stuff, would that sort of just defeat the purpose of the intricacies?
Harry, I will answer your question. You don't have to ask. Answer yourself. What would your mom do? That's it.
Oh, wow. In front of everyone, Andre? I'm 37 years old. That was really funny. That was really funny. Well, I know what she would do.
You know she would do the right, you know she would do the right thing.
She would never do it, yeah, but she's insane and I can't keep up with her.
You know, your mom was a couple, I won't go into there, but she was.
It's okay, you can. You can.
And, yeah, and we managed while she was away. Actually, I will say, one of the things I do recommend is if you're traveling, it's a good day. The day of your travel is a great day to do your fast. Right?
True.
It works out really well for people. Yeah.
But jokes aside, like if I were to take a few, like 4 or 5 days out of the program around the 3rd week or something, would that be really like, should I just wait to do it another time? Does it sort of defeat the purpose of the intricacies of what you guys have put together? I know what my mom would do, Andre.
Well, you can certainly, to answer your question, Harry, you can certainly do the program while you're traveling and while you're away. When they sort of loosely go off.
What he's saying, he doesn't want to. That's what he's saying. He knows that he can.
Yeah, if I go away, the food is going to be too good on this trip to want to limit myself. So I'm just wondering whether it's kind of a moot point and I should just like do this when I'm able to have 6 weeks uninterrupted. And it sounds like I found my answer there.
Either that, you'd add a week on to the end, but you don't want to lose your ability to fat adapt, right? It depends.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So
fair enough. You guys have been very generous with the answers to your questions. I don't want to waste everyone else's time with the questions about how to get out of doing something before I've started it.
Ariella,
thank you.
Did you have a question? Oh, you're welcome.
Yes, I do. But I'm just going to say no pressure, but now we're all wondering where you're going. My question is, Andre, you know that I live like 2 hours from your gym, so that's not going to happen. So how can I like do, I guess, the workouts or whatever? Is there like virtual workouts that I can access or?
Yeah, I will take care of your workouts.
Okay. I mean, I know how to access you. Yeah.
Ariella, just for, disclaimer, she's my sister-in-law, so we'll figure it out.
Okay. Does anyone else have any questions? No.
Right. Well, it's been pretty lengthy by now, so I think that's good. Right. Well, guys.
Yeah,
so if you are serious, if you pretty much decided you're gonna do it, please send us or me email, as soon as you can. Then I'll send you the whole package, so Lian can start working on, looking at your nutritional intakes and so on. And you can start reading, reviewing the document. There's probably like 35 pages of the actual guide about the program. The rest of it is Lian's recipes. The whole package is about over 100 pages, but mostly like 70% is recipes. But first 30 pages kind of describes in great detail everything you need to know about the program.
Yeah, it goes over each week. It's about 40 pages. And then there's about 4 or 5 pages explaining to you in detail how to calculate protein, sort of what you're looking at with certain macro groups, how to measure. It gives you a lot of tips. And then there's a shopping guide as well that covers all of the foods. And then of course there's 120 recipes at the end. So for those of you who are joining us, the sooner you send me the forms, the better. I go through them in great detail. Andre will send you the Slack invitation for the app. I will be sending you feedback and recommendations based on what I see on your forms. There's Q&A questions as well that sort of answer some of the questions you might not be thinking of at the moment. And there are a couple of supplements that are optional for people. They're not necessary, but they are optional. You can read through those as well. Once you're on the app, you can send me a private message if you have any other questions about what you're reading, and we go from there.
All right, guys.
Excellent.
Have a good night.
Thank you so
It was nice to
much.
see you. Thank you for joining us.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, bye-bye, guys.
Bye.